back to Charlotte Dancer Drawing. Well, today we are going to be drawing the Indominus Rex hatching out of the egg. So, with that out of the way, let's get into it. So we're first going to start with a giant bulbous shape for the egg. So it's basically an oval, which is a bit slimmer on the top side. And that's basically done for the egg. You could add a tiny bit more detail, but okay, now we're going to add the crack where you can see the Indominus Rex hatching. And to make it look a bit nicer, we're just going to add a tiny bit of cracks. And now we're going to draw the Indominus Rex itself. So we're going to be drawing the arm, well, the hand. So this is going to be the first, so this is going to be the hand. That's the first claw, or one of the smallest claw. Then we have the middle claw, which is the biggest claw, and then finally we have the smallest claw, well, the second smallest claw, the last claw, except for the opposable thumb, which isn't really in the shot there. And now we're going to draw the head, which is going to be there. Now we're just going to add like the sockets. Okay. And I think we made this a bit too big. So what we're just going to do, we're going to keep this. It's like the leg there. But now we are going to take out our erasers. And I'm just going to erase this tiny bit because I think it's a bit too tall. I'm just going to make it there. There we go. Now, we can get started. So we're going to start with the egg shape again. This time we're going to do it with a hard outline. Okay, there we go. Now we are going to start adding the cracks. So we're going to first start with a tiny bit of eggshell just lying there, because there is a part of the eggshell which has gone missing because the Indominus Rex clawed through it. So that's going to probably be on the floor, just scattered around there. Okay. Now, we are going to keep on drawing the egg crack. So now, we're just going to add some tiny details in the crack. And now just leave this space just blank for now. And now we're going to start drawing the cracks. Oh, and if you don't want to make it too like spiky, and you also want to have like some tiny bits which are just plain, which are smooth. So I'm just going to quickly do that. Okay, so now we are going to start drawing the cracks also in the egg. So basically just have some squiggly lines basically. And now we can add some tiny softer cracks there and there. And now we are going to do the hand, arguably the best part of this. So we are going to draw like the wrist, and then we're going to draw the fingers. So we're going to start with the first finger. We're going to add some padding, and then we'll do the claws at the end. Then we're going to do the second finger, add a bit of finger padding. Then we're going to add the finger, we add a bit more padding, and then we just erase all of the first outline. Okay, so we're just going to go over that again so it's a bit more recognizable. And now we're going to add the claws. Now the claws on the Indominus Rex are quite big, so you'll want to make them quite giant. There we go. Okay, now I think we might have made a tiny mistake there. Okay, so what we're gonna try and do now is we're gonna I think that those fingers are a bit too big, so I'm just gonna make them a bit thinner. There we go. Now we're going to add the claws again. And yeah. Now we can add a tiny bit of detail before we go in pen. So we're just going to keep on adding those tiny details. Add a few scales, skewed scales, and now we're going to do the head. So we're going to first start with basically a line which is, so we're going to start with a line going for facing the top, and then we're going to have a line go diagonal until it reaches near the very top of here, and we're going to add a tiny bump. So it's going to stop, and then we're going to do like that, because if you know the Indominus, it had a tiny bump there. And now we're just going to add the sockets. Oh wait, so we're not doing the skeleton, so this would usually be around that big. So now you can keep on adding the muzzle and the nose. Now we're going to add the teeth, well, the jaw, and then we're going to do teeth. So what I would do is that I would leave some spots empty for like the jaw, and like maybe add some crooked teeth, because this is like very ferocious and in like scary dinosaur, so it has a lot of teeth which are just jagged like that. Okay, so we're gonna also add a few more teeth over here, and there we go. Now we can add the eye, which, since this is an infant, this is going to be quite a big eye. You can always adjust it if you want. Now we're going to add the tiny wrinkles on the eye. Well, not on the eye, but near the eye. And since this is an infant, I'm just going to make that eye a tiny bit bigger and have less wrinkles, because this is like an infant. And now this is kind of looking like an adult Indominus, so I'm going to just soften up the lines like that. And now we're just going to add some tiny scales and just some regular detail. This is the part where you could like customize the Indominus Rex. And we're also going to add some tiny wrinkles on the top of the jaw, but not that many since it's an infant again. So we're just going to add some scales. Okay, now what we are going to do here is that we are going to now do it in pen. So we're just going to get our pens out, and we're going to start with the pen. So we're first going to start with the claws of the Indominus Rex. So we're going to cover them pure black, except for one of the claws, Well, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a tiny reflection so that it looks like it's like actually there's some light. So I'm going to add that to all the claws. And now I'm going to add the padding and the fingers. Now we're going to do the hand, and it's kind of weird what happens here. It kind of gets covered, but then there's this part of eggshell, the eggshell, which covers that, so it kind of looks a bit weird, like the Indominus Rex has lost its arm, but this is what it would look like. And now, since it's such an infant, I'm just going to make it that eye a bit bigger. Maybe that's a bit too big. You can always customize this, but I'm going to make it that big. That looks better. Now, we are going to add the cracks in the egg. Now, since this is in pen, I'm going to add, I'm going to jitter a bit, and that's intentional, so it looks like it's actually natural, which is what we're trying to get here in when a dinosaur, because that's natural. Okay. Now, we're going to add that tiny bit of eggshell there, and now we're going to add the head shape. So that's basically the head shape. And now we are going to do the cavities, the muzzle, and all of that. So we're going to just lightly add some wrinkles to the muzzle and color in the nose there. And we're also going to add the pupil of the Indominus Rex, which is actually more like a cat with a slit pupil. And to make it look more babyish, we're going to add a tiny highlight there. And now we're going to use our pencils again to color in the eye with grey lid. If you had a colored pencil, then you could use red, but for this video, I'm not. So now we're going to do the jawline. And this time I'm going to jitter a lot again, just to make sure that it looks quite natural, or in this way, kind of a bit grotesque, because that is what's going to make it look like the real Indominus Rex. Okay, now since we're done with that, we are now going to go on to the the scales. Okay, so we're just going to add the scales, which we did before, adding some new scales, coloring some old scales, and now we're going to add those tiny wrinkles there. And now we're going to add a tiny bit of shading on the Indominus Rex, because it's still hidden in the egg. So we're going to use the pencil for this. We're just going to add a tiny bit of shading on the top there, on the bottom here. And we are also now going to cover this whole place, which is not in the Indominus Rex, in black. So there's a tiny bit of the Indominus Rex here with some scales, but the rest of it is just going to be pure black. Or since I'm using the grey lid, it's going to be grey. But then we can go over that in pen to make it really dark. So now, what are we going to do here now? So now we are going to be doing doing the egg basically, and the scales on the arm. So we're just going to quickly do the scales on the arm first. Okay, and now we're going to add those cracks in the egg. Okay. There we go. So now we're going to add those miniature cracks. And now we're just going to go over, and because I want like the egg to feel special, I'm gonna go and quickly get like one of those really big markers which makes a big outline. So I'm gonna quickly go and get that. As you can see, I'm going to be using this. You probably didn't see it good there. This. So now we're just going to basically outline the egg. And you can smoothen it out sometimes, because sometimes it can get a bit like rough. And you can also add a tiny bit of shading, like I'm doing here, because you know, the egg is also a bit shaded and it'll look a bit nice. So now we're going to keep on going with the shape of the egg. And there we go. So we can just add a tiny few last details. And we're basically done. I'm just going to add a few dots on the egg. And we're basically done. So, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye bye.